Welcome to Business Law and Ethics module. Due to certain circumstances, we cannot hold this module live, but we hope you are able to watch this without any interruptions and enjoy this module. Next slide. So
Yes.
meet the team. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So meet the team. We have on our team we have Aiden Mishra, who is a host, as well as a presenter today. Me, I am the vice president of international affairs here at Entrepreneurs Tech. Sarah Dume, who is also a co-leader, and Srijan Giri, who is also a host, as well as we have here Smith, who is the founder of Entrepreneurs Tech, joining us.
Great.
Okay, so hi guys. So we're very happy to have Mr. Farrukh Khan with here today. So I would like to talk about him. So Dr. Farrukh Khan is a registered advocate with the Bar Council and is the managing partner in a very good and a leading firm in Delhi known as Diwan Advocates. Dr. Farrukh Khan holds a doctorate of philosophy in law as well. So Dr. Khan is a regular speaker. He has spoken many places in many schools as well as many news channels in India. So I would like to introduce Dr. Farrukh Khan. Please, if you would like to talk more about Diwan Advocates and yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. A very good morning to all of you. It's indeed my sheer pleasure and privilege to have this opportunity to interact with you all. And during the time of this discussion, rather I will say that interaction, I will try to be as precise as I could and to enlighten you all about the experiences and expertise for working over all these years in the field of law in India. So as a background, short background of mine, I belong to a very remote place in Bihar, district Kaimur, relatively unknown, and it was erstwhile part of Sasaram district. And my schooling till class 10th was in Varanasi. My plus 2 and my LLB I did from Aligarh Muslim University. I passed, graduated LLB in 2007 from Aligarh University. I was also a student activist and held the post of General Secretary of Students Union and also the member of court, the university court, which was the highest governing body of the campus. After doing my law in 2007, completing my law, I got enrolled myself with Bar Council of Delhi to be licensed to practice before the courts. However, an opportunity was knocked my door, rather I will say. I was not looking for it, but it knocked anyhow. And I joined a law firm in state of Qatar, in city of Doha, as a paralegal. Because at that point of time, I was fresher, so I was not being taken as in a full legal associate. I was appointed as a paralegal. And I was assisting the teams of lawyers who were working in handing over the intellectual property portfolio. So I worked there, and God has been very kind to me. Within 6-7 months, I was promoted from paralegal to legal associate. And then I was transferred from Doha for some time to Dubai, and then for like 8 months, I was in Spain. After my short stint with the foreign law firms, I had a privilege of working with United Nations as well. and I was legal advisor to the regional director of Middle East and North Africa for an organization called as IMSAM, which has a permanent observer status to UNESCO. And with that organization, I had opportunity of interacting directly with Mr. Maradona, the legendary soccer player, as we all know. He was also Goodwill Ambassador. Way back in 2010, after completing these all, I would say, short experiments, because a lawyer heart is always in the court. So I was missing the part of the court in all my stints with foreign jobs, because technically although very interesting, but they were basically desk work. So where we have to give opinion, draft contracts, advise on the legal structuring strategy, and then working with United Nations gave me exposure of understanding the human rights perspective and how the UN works vis-a-vis different organizations under its umbrella. But as I said that I was badly missing the courtroom, I was badly missing arguing cases before the court and those real-time challenges. So 2010, I decided that I should get back to India. Though my family members, my friends, my acquaintances were against this idea. And because at that time I was in Spain, so they said that, and I was earning good. I was, they were of the opinion that now since you have come this, this way long, you must not do this misadventure going back to India again and trying everything, starting everything from scratch. But I took that risk, and I thought that howsoever the situation may warrant, howsoever conditions may be, I will go and try my luck in my own country, practicing as a conventional, traditional lawyer. And if fortune will not favor me, so I can, of course, get some different job at different point of time. So with this risk, and contrary to advice of nearly all my near and dear ones, I came back again in 2010, fag end of 2009 actually. And 2010, I started practicing here in India again. The life of a lawyer, of a budding lawyer, is always very struggling unless you are coming from a background of lawyers, your family, your father, or anyone in the family of lawyer. But I was, as I said, I come from a very humble background. So there was no one to patron, there was no one whom we can say that guide. And it is rather very tough competitive field. And competition is because of immense knowledge, expertise, hard work, dedication of the lawyers towards their work and clients. Nonetheless, I also joined the fray. I tried my level best. Even I'm trying my level best till today, because in law we say you will keep studying, you will keep gaining knowledge until your last breath. That's why there is no retirement age for lawyers. And you would see that lawyers, despite of all odd, notwithstanding of any personal problem, physical issues, ailment issues, you will find lawyers in the corridors of every court in India. So started in 2010, and touch wood, thank God, God has been very kind to us. And it started with one room in Greater Noida. And now we have 5 offices, more than 60 lawyers across all the offices, along with around 35 support staff. And primarily we are a full service law firm, so primarily advising each and every avenue in the spectrum of law for the different clients. Business law and ethics is the subject. This was a brief introduction. of my of me. And yeah, I just forget to mention that I did my LLM and PhD in law while working. So I my LLM and PhD have been completed while practicing my law. That's why my PhD took 5 years, and I had to get an extra permission because the UGC then guidelines were not allowing. So I had to take that extra permission, and that grace gestation period was granted to me to submit my thesis. Fortunately, it was. Coming to your subject, see, law and ethics, even if we leave business for a while, though I will connect it later, and I just say law and ethics, normal misconception which is misconceived, which the common public, with the general person who are alien to the field of law, understand that in law there is no ethics, but they are 100% wrong. It's misconceived notion because the foundation of law is based on ethics. You see the object of any law. You see the abstract, preamble, introductory comment on any legislation which has been enacted by the parliament. It defines the object for what purpose the said law is being enacted. Even when the law once notified, once the legislature get the assent of the Honorable President, and when it is notified in the official gazette of the Government of India or a state gazette, as the case may be, you see the object is the first thing which finds place, and everything is based on ethics. Generalizing anything is always not a good idea. We have to agree that in every practice, in every field, in every industry segment, there are some practices which could not be said at par excellence at any point of time. But exception does not supersede the general rule. When we say ethics, ethics is all about how we conduct ourselves. Even if I leave aside the arguments of law, and I come to ethics. Ethics is the voice of your heart. Ethics is something which defines your personality. As a lawyer, if I am defending a person in court who is charged with committing an offense, let's say a very heinous crime, my ethics demands that I have to see the defenses as available in the file itself, in the case being put forth by prosecution. Of course, a lawyer, for that matter, even I or anyone, cannot go to an extent to create evidence, right? That is, of course, unethical. Not only unethical, but also a criminal act, which is punishable. So when I'm defending a person, and these days you will understand that even before a person is actually convicted, there is a media trial going on, and so the media is the prosecutor, the media is jury, the media is all appellate courts. They have assumed all these responsibilities, which is, of course, in my personal opinion, it is very unethical. So if I'm defending a client, as I was saying earlier, I had to always ensure that I don't cross that Lakshman Rekha, that fine line, while defending my client. I'm duty bound to defend my client, and my client has a fundamental right to get assistance of lawyer to defend him or her before the court of law. The function, why I'm trying to relate it with the theory of Austin, as everybody would, you would have read it. The principle of natural justice of which ethics is a component, an indispensable component, demands that howsoever a person is condemned, howsoever the crime is heinous, howsoever the strong evidences are available on record against that person, but he also has a right, inherent right, being guaranteed by the Constitution to defend himself or herself before the court. The court, while after hearing the submission and perusing the documents on behalf of the prosecution, as well as with the defense, will reach to a definitive conclusion as to whether the defenses being put forth by the defense, the accused, have some substance, are they valid, or they are patently feeble. And then court will reach to it on reasoning and logic. And then a judgment or order will be passed. Ethics also demand that we must be very, as a practicing lawyer, we must be very fair to the court. We have a dual duty to perform. Number one, we have to take care of the interest of the client to whom we are representing. And at the same time, we have to strike down, we have to maintain this balance that we are fair to the court. Because as a lawyer, as you must all know, that when I'm in my ropes and I'm appearing before the court, so I am the officer of the court. And the judge who is presiding, he is called as a presiding officer. Learned PO, you might have heard about it. So as an officer of course, and there are numerous judgments, catalog of judgments passed by various high courts as well as the Honorable Supreme Court, which says that the duty of the lawyer is of course to protect his client, but to be also fair to the court. And this fundamentally defines what the ethics is. Even in business communications, business transactions, legislation, commercial suits. If I'm drawing a contract, of course, if I'm representing party A in the contract, I have to make sure that party A interests and rights are protected. They are not jeopardized, and they don't have any possible, even in worst case scenario, we should not be, the client on account of non-perusal of the documents as it ought to have been, has to suffer. But assuming that in industry where we have a system of unilateral contracts, you must be aware, like suppose that you are going to a bank for taking a credit card. You are going to bank to take some loan to certain NBFC, or for that matter, any other institution. Normally you will see that a set of documents is being supplied to you, and you will be asked to execute it if you want to avail that services. Certainly, in such transaction, literally you don't have any right to negotiate, apart from some simple thing like rate of interest and everything in bank's loan. That's true in NBFC, but not in financial institutions or even there. And let me tell you one thing, that even if I'm going to apply for a credit card and the document which have been supplied to me for execution, for signing, if I read it from mind of a lawyer, I will never sign it. Because the covenants are so skewed in favor of the unilateral party that you don't have the room. But at the end of the day, since you require the services, since every option wherever you will go in the same industry segment will have more or less same set of documents. So in a lighter vein, I can say that it is all about that you have to succumb to their demands. Moreover, if you would follow the judgments and recent legal developments in commercial law from the dictum of law being propounded by Honorable Supreme Court of India, that such contracts which lacks ethical values again, and which is so unilateral that it is skewed in favor of one party, and in a larger and wide public interest, the Honorable Supreme Court, in I think a year back judgment, I can't recall the name, but it was authored by Justice Chandrachud. He invoked this principle, and invoking this principle, the bench reached to a conclusion that skewed contracts which are executed under the domination of will, even if not undue influence and coercion, because that's a different part, is something which the court has to see from the wider perspective. So from where this wider perspective comes, that's the question. Because other judgments of Supreme Court also says in a very plain, loud and clear terms that a contract has to be read as it is written. The interpretation of the contract has to be done understanding the interpretation which parties have desired while entering into such agreement. But then we have to draw a line between the commercial transaction of a different nature and commercial transaction of a nature where the other party is at so receiving end that if the courts does not come to help and at its rescue, then the other party will not survive in terms of the financial interest. So ethics always, since if you read Plato, if you read Socrates, you will see those quotations, you will say that ethics have been of very, very paramount importance. And we have to make sure as professionals that when we are working on a project, of course, we are duty bound to defend our client to whom we are representing, for whom we are holding brief. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we do not violate the basic principles, the cardinal principles of ethical values. This is how the normal functionality and harmonization and synchronization between, and just let me add one thing more here as well. It is not that there is some set formula, like in mathematics, a square plus b square, that in some set formula you put the facts, the dynamicism of facts, the case law, and then you can analyze what is the level of what this ethical need demands from you on this aspect. It is not. Every case is a unique case. Every facts of every case has a different type of developments, their own turn of events. Challenges for lawyers are very, very monumental. And then that's why we used to say, rather that I will attribute this to me, I always try to, while deciding the factum with vis-a-vis ethical values, I always try to listen to my heart, not to my mind. Because when I will, in ethics, if I have a file to work on and I'm just applying my mind will work as a lawyer. It will not be able to distinguish between the fact of the case and me. It will not refrain me from stepping into shoes of the client. So a time comes that I start thinking I am defending myself. But heart somewhere, and mind it, that everyone, even if we digress this and just come to one connected matter, that even if we are going to do a thing for which our heart does not permit, which at somewhere at back of the mind, in subconscious mind, it comes to your mind, no, this is not good. If, for example, I'm in a restaurant, I have ordered something and it's too rush, and the waiter or the billing staff were not able to collect payment from me or to give me a check for that, for the things I have consumed there. And I have the option of leaving the restaurant, nobody is going to get hold of me. Mind will say, all right, you can save some bucks. But if you will go to the voice of your heart, we say, no. Even if you have done it, you will realize that I have not, that was not good. So this is a litmus test as far as I am concerned. My litmus test is that when I am defending any interest in the court or I am advising any client, I make sure that I do not cross that fine line. And if I am not crossing that fine line and I am defending my client and its interest for all whatever means available at my disposal and the means which are legally permissible, ethically permissible, I have to use it. So this is how the harmonization of business law with ethics, or for that matter, any law and ethics, has to be synchronized and has to be understood. We also need to understand and appreciate that this profession is very dynamic. It's very dynamic. What may have been permissible yesterday may not be permissible today, and may again be impermissible tomorrow. That depends. So that's why we always need to make sure that whatever we are doing and whatever we are at that point of time, whatever module in the strategy we have taken, that is after satisfying your thoughts that whatever we are doing is perfectly fine in eyes of law and eyes of fact, and moreover in eyes of our own thought process. Secondly, if there are some questions to be asked, I think that would be fine.
Yes, sure. So I have a few questions to ask you. So in the current time, this COVID-19. So how has COVID-19 changed your work environment and the dynamic of your work? Has it affected in some sort?
Yes, it has. But let me tell you that from the day of this lockdown was, if I speak about my country, India itself, from the day when national lockdown was announced by the government of India, courts have been working, albeit with limited bandwidth. But as Supreme Court had said in one of the matter in pandemic itself, that doors of justice could not be closed. It has changed. It has changed to an extent that we, from, let's say, from 15th March onwards till date, I have not been into the court. And for that matter, even anyone in Delhi, because courts have not resumed physical hearing. So the cases in initial period in lockdown in March, April, May, till May, only urgent cases were being taken up by court through video conferencing. But with effective from June, courts have also started taking non-urgent matters, the regular matters which were on board earlier. So these days what we are doing that even in lockdown, we were allowed to move to our office. Lawyers were considered as part of essential services. So we were going to courts because, at home, you cannot make your office. Let's assume like in a criminal trial, we have a file which runs into, let's say 10,000 pages. If I am defending any client against CBI, so the charge sheet is not less than 10,000 pages. So 10,000 pages, it is practically impossible to, to make it mobile. So for that purpose, we need to have access to our office, which we had. And the experience is that we say that I am on my leg. That is a nomenclature, if you would have heard, that a lawyer will say that I'm on my leg, meaning thereby that I'm arguing before the court. So no more on legs is required. We are very comfortably arguing from our office. And it's not a bad idea. Now we have I have 5 cases to argue in a day. So we have 5 computer or iPad or mobile or any electronic such type of device. So all in one room, we are, one computer is there, in second room, second computer is there. So earlier we used to, run through the galleries to reach to this court and that court. Now we are just roaming inside the office from this to there. And the litigation ratio has come down. It may take a spike again once the situation normalizes. I have personally witnessed that parties who were earlier desirous of litigating, they are trying to find out some amicable settlement with the contesting party. So that's good development also. For lawyers, it's not a good development at the end of the day, but it is. So things are going fine, and we have, our generation had a tough time, even if I go one generation higher than me, the generation of judges, because adapting at this age, to all these technical means and understanding, video conferencing and how to mute, how to unmute. It was, even for me, let me admit and confess it, that in one of the matter in very beginning, I think in month of April, I was arguing a matter before Honorable Supreme Court, before Justice Chanchod himself. And I was not, because the application that was being used by Supreme Court then, that was very, very technical, so we don't know how to mute, how to unmute, how to start the video. So initially 5-7 minutes went into this. In a normal days in Supreme Court, your special leave petition takes 1 minute. 1 minute, either it is admitted or it is being dismissed. So the work environment has changed. New things are coming. We are embracing the new technologies. And I think the younger ones, the budding lawyers would be more comfortable on this, because if they get first-hand experience of arguing the cases and attending the court proceedings by virtual mode, so they will be at better position than us, than the present generation.
Yeah. So as you told us that first you started with only one office in Noida, then you went on to having 30 offices all over Delhi NCR. So I would like to ask, how did you make those connections to form 30 offices and get firms and get lawyers too?
Yeah, let me correct.
How was the initiative?
Yeah, thank you. Let me correct. It is not 30 offices, it is 5 offices. And we are a team of around 60 lawyers and 30 support staff. So around 100 people in all location. It is very, if I say something to this extent, that may be very astonishing for all of you. But let me say that if there is only one component for success, that is hard work, dedication and hard work. So if you ask me, I will only say keep working hard, keep working hard, keep working hard. irrespective of immediate results. Never get disappointed. If I count my personal experiences, I was working in the state of Qatar, that is Doha, in summer when there was a temperature of 51, 52 degrees Celsius. So to save some rupees, if you say like 3 riyals equivalent to 36 or 38 rupees at that point of time. So to save that money, I used to leave bus service and I used to walk in that 51, 52 degrees Celsius, all that coat and tie and everything to save that money. Sometimes I had to skip my lunch to save money because inflation was very high, salary was very less. So, but God, as I said, God has been very kind to us. The struggle period was very short. But the point, precisely what I want to convey here is that you should of course set a target that in 5 years you have to achieve this. But always remember that selecting a target is your prerogative, is completely under your decision. But will you be able to achieve it or not? That is not in your hands. You have to work hard. And let me tell you that during the next 5 years down the line, when you reach to that 5-year period, and if you see that you are not able to get what you have actually dreamt for, but you will then realize that destiny has some better plan for you and you will not regret it. So as far as I am concerned, started from one room. It was a studio type of room in Greater Noida itself, because the rent was very, very less at that point of time, very cheap. And so I was the lawyer, I was my clerk, I was my typist, I was my accountant, everything. So, driving daily 80 kilometers up down from Greater Noida to Delhi, and sometimes using, a metro also, parking vehicle in Noida and then using metro to going for Dwarka court or for Kakkarduma court in Delhi. So struggle is there, but one should not feel disappointed. Keep working hard, have that dedication, have that willpower, and don't get influenced by immediate fallouts. Never ever. If you learn the art of overcoming the obstacles, if you learn this and if you make this as a part of your habit, that you are not influenced by the immediate fallouts, as long as you are right, as long as you are morally right, as long as you are ethically right, professionally right, you should not worry about the immediate fallout. Human psychology is such that it will impact. It's very easy to say that, no, I will not be impacted. It will impact. It will impact everyone. For that matter, me or you or anyone. But we have to keep ourselves very strong. Let it come and we'll deal with it. That's it.
That's a great word, sir. So I just had one last question. So what advice do you have to give like the people who are interested in business law?
See, as I understand, if I speak in the context of India or in the context of common law jurisdiction, even common law jurisdiction, right? Whenever I take lectures and I, take some classes in Delhi University also, MET also, as a guest faculty, nowadays not of course, but in pre-corona, I always try to tell them one thing. Don't try to develop a niche at your beginning part of your career. As a lawyer, if you have this vision to be a corporate lawyer or intellectual property lawyer or a criminal lawyer or a taxation lawyer or a competition lawyer, anything for that matter, it's of course very good, because this is an era of specialization. rather super specialization. But for 5 years, initial 5 years in your practice, minimum, try your hands in every branch of law. Join that office which is working in every field of law, whether it is corporate, commercial, taxation, criminal, civil, constitutional. And you don't think that you are into 9 to 5 job. It is not. Let me tell you one thing, it is not. A lawyer has, a successful lawyer, if you will go through his own life, you will see that how many sacrifices he or she may have done. You know why? There is no limit of working hour. 15 hours is minimum which you need if you want to be a lawyer. And I can say that at my age and at my level of practice, 15 hours, even in this limited bandwidth functionality we are working with no weekends. So it is not a job. And as I keep saying to my colleagues that it is, you start from morning, like somebody has sent a 15 hours in this question mark. So let me clarify this. I start in the morning at 7 and leave my house by 8:30. Use my time while I am in my car to study some brief, then go to court. After court, we come back to office, and then we all have the drafting and reading work. And the time when in the night, in midnight, at least I am not able to be back to my home before 11 in any normal day. Sometimes it happens that I had to travel to Mumbai in the morning, attend a court hearing before Bombay High Court. And while I'm landing back at Delhi, let's say in evening, 5 o'clock, and I'm being told, a WhatsApp message flashed that again you have to travel to Calcutta for a matter listed tomorrow. So I then at that point of time, sometimes it happens that office book a ticket directly from Delhi airport, again back to Calcutta airport. This is how the practice goes on. So you have to learn this art and never ever try escaping from this responsibility. Always feel yourself blessed that in the office where you are working, you are given a task which is a cause of some I will not use word migraine because that will not sound better here, but it gives you some pinching effect in your brain, that challenge to understand it. Because law, the concept of law, see, whatever you read in books, whatever you read in files, that does not develop your concept of law. Concept of law is a unique component which is being developed over a period of time. It does not come overnight. Period of time wherein you, after evaluating, understanding different cases, you come to your own conceptual understanding to a particular legislation or to a particular section of legislation. Number one. Number two, that for initial 5 years, as I said, do and practice in trial courts. Even if you are joining a law firm, see that law firm which has a practice in trial courts. The foundation of case is laid down the trial court, not in high court, not in Supreme Court. So if you are not able to gain ample experience of the trial proceedings and directly you go to high court or Supreme Court or in arbitration, you will always miss something in your life. Because the pure lawyering you learn, as far as Indian context is concerned, I will restrict common law to India only now, that you must have access to trial courts. Lawyering is not only, my friends, is not only about drafting, pleading, arguing. Lawyering is all about how smart you are. Lawyering is all about that whether do you have a potential to recalibrate yourself at the spur of the moment, right? So if you keep working hard, if you prepare yourself and that you will never look back. Uh, success is something which will come to your way 100%.
Thank you, sir. So that will be all for us today. Thank you for joining us, and it was very great to have you here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
And sir,
much.
can I share your email ID with our participants if they have
Yeah,
any
you can.
questions they want to personally ask? Thank you,
Do.
sir. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a
Thank you.
great day.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you
too.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Take care. Bye.
Okay, so hi guys, welcome back. We hope that you guys learned a lot from our guest speaker, Mr. Khan, and thank you again to him for taking time out of his day to share his valuable advice with us. We're now going to move on to the next portion of our module, and we're now going to look more specifically into business law and ethics, and just give you some useful information and just some knowledge that we can share. So firstly, let's start with what is business ethics. So in short, business ethics can be described as a systematic study of moral matters pertaining specifically to business in this case. So when you define business ethics, it is mostly observed that the moral standards of a business are not that different to that of an individual, because it is essentially an individual or a group of individuals that do create a business's ethical beliefs and ethical values that that translate throughout the business. So it is not a separate moral standard, but the study of how the business context poses its own unique problems for the moral person who acts as sort of, let's say, an agent for this system. And then lastly, we're just going to briefly talk about organizational ethics, because what organizational ethics refers to is the rightness of the decisions and behaviors of individuals and the organizations of which they are a part of. Okay, so moving on, we're going to look at ethical decision making, and ethical decision making can be viewed as a system influenced by several components. So we've just listed some basic components down below. So these components consist of ethical issues, principles guiding ethical decision making, managerial concerns in an organization, environmental factors like culture and legal frameworks, etc., which vary depending on where you're practicing or where a certain business is located and what the legalities of that country are. And then lastly, we also have to take into account personal characteristics of the decision maker, because as we mentioned before, business ethics or business morals aren't different to that of an individual person's basic morals that have been ingrained in them since birth, or that are just like, socially acceptable as of the moral code of conduct. So hence why personal characteristics do play a major role in making ethical decisions. Okay, and then to conclude, we have ethical issues that businesses face. So basically, there are, again, some types of ethical issues listed. So I'm just going to go into a bit of detail for each. So the first one that we have is corporate strategy issues. So these issues are, for example, like the selections of what type of plant, technology, and just the basic decisions that relate to like how your business operates in general. So like it's how are you going to meet the expectations of your stakeholders, and just different strategies to help you meet your business goals. Next, we have the finance and accounting issues, such as insider trading, hostile takeover, acquiring non-performing assets through surplus funds, and etc. And then we have human resource management, which I think this is probably the heaviest ethical issue section. So these issues relate to dealing with unions and labor negotiations, responsibilities that the business has towards their employees, like safety and occupational health hazards, managing costs, and also managing cross-cultural teams, workforce diversity, gender equality, the privacy of your employees, and just how certain technology that you implement within your business is going to impact the working motivation of your employees, and if their families are being compensated fairly. So just all of these like social issues that you can think of and that are important to people basically come under human resource management issues. We then have marketing management issues, which is often very culture specific. So unlike human resources, which is very people specific, this is more to do with the culture around us. So it's just to do with how sensitively and how well you can market your product in certain countries. So for example, marketing baby milk in developing countries, or making sure you don't have misleading or deceptive advertisements that can really ruin the image of your company. And just ensuring that the connection between the packaging and the environment is as sustainable as possible, as nowadays we're globally moving towards a more sustainable form of conducting our businesses and just packaging in general. And then lastly, we have production and operations management issues. So this is I guess the simplest one to explore, because it just deals more with, like, for example, the impact of technology on employees, the safety processes your business has in place, quality of production, how much pollution manufacturing goods causes, and like what I guess measures you have in place to like prevent that or just reduce its effects. So that about covers business ethics. Now we're gonna move on.
Hi guys. So we're talking about why do we need business law. So this is a very important thing in the area of business, the business law per se, because it makes amendments between the businesses as well. It helps businesses avoid getting penalized. So I would like to take an example first and tell you more about this. So for example, you're playing chess, but you're just playing chess, but you don't know the rules. You would get frustrated easily, and because you don't know the rules, and this way the opponent has a better advantage. The opponent's gonna move his pieces, and you also want to move your pieces to like somewhere. You know where do you want to move them, but you don't know how to move them because you don't know the rules of the game. So same we can say, if you don't know the business law, basically it's like you don't know the rules of business. You have a set goal in mind, but you don't know the rules of business. So we can say that the rule of law establishes rules that people and businesses must follow to avoid getting penalized. And the rule of law not only allows people to get to their best capabilities, but also sets them as a better advantage player in the game. So if you go on the next slide. Okay, contract. So we'll start this by getting a definition first. So a contract is basically enforceable by a law. So contract has two major important elements. One is the agreement. So agreement is the outcome of, so basically if there's a business A and there's a business B, they're dealing goods with each other, and A gives them a price that he'll sell some goods for some amount of money, and B agrees with it. They're going to form an agreement and they're going to do the dealings. So that is agreement. If you go on the second element, it is the obligation which is enforceable by law. Okay, so if I'm starting a business of, let's say, IT. First, I need to go to the law, sign some paperwork, and do some paperwork basically for making sure that my whatever I'm doing is legal, and I'm doing my practice perfectly. Yeah. So if you go on the next slide. Example. So this is a very good example that we found. So basically, if you see that A gives an offer to B to supply him with 10 bags of rice after 10 days for rupees 10,000 rupees. So B liked this offer and he was comfortable and confident doing dealing with A. So he accepted the offer, and he paid the amount of 10,000 to A, and A received the amount. So by through this example, we can see that offer, as A gave the offer to B, plus acceptance, B liked the offer and he accepted the offer. So we can say that offer plus acceptance makes the agreement between both of them. So that's what agreement is. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you, Aryan, for explaining why we need business law. Now we'll be looking into the legal implications to every startup. So there are several things that could go wrong. What business owners need to know are the legal implications, as it is one of the best ways to manage most of the risks that are inherent to startup. If they don't do this at time, they'll face restrictions, fines, revocations, etc. Therefore, startups must observe legal guidelines to ensure smooth operations. As we can see on the slide, we have 5 steps to Startup Law 101. We'll be covering these 5 steps in depth. First step is company incorporation. So it is quite obvious after you decide to start up is to figure out how you want to incorporate your company. As a startup, you can register your company as a private limited company, a sole proprietorship, a limited liability partnership, LLP, or a partnership. The co-founders must collectively decide the type of entity they want to form. Keeping in mind the venture's long-term plans, right from the incorporation stage, we'd recommend you to work with a lawyer to get documents in place. Each type of entity has its own advantages and disadvantages in terms of taxes, personal liabilities, future fundraising factors, and so on. Even the location where you incorporate your company matters, and expert opinion becomes crucial in all matters. Second point, the co-founder agreement. This is the crucial step. The crucial step lies in creating a comprehensible shareholder agreement with your co-founder or a business partner. Today, more than ever, a lot of startups are founded with multiple co-founders on board, and typically a conflict between the founder arises when the business is either taking off or is on a downward spiral. In such circumstances, a co-founder agreement will come in handy. It should cover critical aspects such as common goal of the company, the roles and responsibilities of each founder, the ownership percentage, the salaries that each founder is entitled to, the dilution stage, who will dilute when, the extent of dilution, and more. Third step, an IP strategy. IP stands for intellectual property. Okay, so the third aspect lies in the protection of core intellectual property. If you have a unique product, technology, platform, or process, or if you're outsourcing part of the development to an independent developer or external service provider, it is vital to come to a clear agreement on who owns the code and content. In fact, it is advisable to create an agreement which states clearly that ownership lies with the company and not with the service provider you have engaged. The role of intellectual property, especially in technology-oriented business, is turning out to be extremely crucial in today's world. It is important to work with the right IP experts to file copyrights, trademarks, and other forms of IP, and even plan your future IP strategy. It is also crucial not to only create IP, but also to monetize and protect one's IP rights. And the right legal partner can make a huge difference in all these areas. Step 4 is having a contract. The world of entrepreneurship has changed remarkably in the last decade or so. Companies are relying a lot more not only on full-time employees, but also on part-time talent and even network of partners. For example, large startups like Ola Cabs operate within a framework of drivers, none of whom are full-time employees. Companies like Snapdeal rely on online seller partners who are small businesses. In most of these situations, problems can potentially arise due to disagreements. The role of a watertight contract becomes all more crucial. We'd strongly recommend you having a contract with all key relationships that your business has with employees, partners, vendors, and clients. Next, we have the last step. We have the legal diligence. It covers 2 points. That are identifying the right lawyer and identifying the law firm, and secondly, the affordability. So what does identifying the right lawyer means? With the advent of internet and digital platforms, to search and identify legal firms, advisors may seem like a breeze. However, it is essential that you work with a firm or individual who understands your business and has a prior expertise in the sector you operate in. In fact, the best strategy to identify the right firm or individual is to go through word of mouth or referrals. That way, you can avoid a future mismatch between what was committed, what was delivered, and what is protected. Lastly, affordability. Startup founders often avoid going to a law firm to save some cash in the early days. However, a better strategy would be to identify a law firm or lawyer through your entrepreneur peers, and go with a firm that has a transparent and fair fee structure. While in the early days, it is advisable to work on a project-based fee model, and as a startup scales up, one can move into hourly billing or retainer model. At a macro level, the need for legal assistance at any startup must be linked with key business milestones. So the milestones can be in the form of revenue generated, the number of customers you have secured, or can also be the regions you have expanded into, and etc. Over the time, as business expands, you may need to onboard a full-time legal officer and then even set up a full-time team. Till then, do not ignore your legal needs, work within the right law firm, and ensure all key documents that are in place. it can make a critical difference in important junctures while you're fundraising, trying to exit your business, or even while you ramp up your team. So happy starting up. Next, we have consumer protection. So consumer protection is the practice of safeguarding buyers of goods and services and the public against unfair practices in the market. Such laws are intended to prevent businesses from engaging in fraud or specific unfair practices in order to gain an advantage over competitors or to mislead consumers. Consumer protection is linked to the idea of consumer rights and to the formation of consumer organizations, which help consumers make better choices in the marketplace and pursue complaints against businesses. Entities that promote consumer protection include government organizations such as Federal Trade Commission in the United States, self-regulating business organizations such as Better Business Bureaus in the US, Canada, England, etc., and non-governmental organizations that advocate for consumer protection laws and help to ensure their enforcement, such as consumer protection agencies and watchdog groups. A consumer is defined as someone who acquires goods or services for direct use or ownership rather than the resale or use in production and manufacturing. The consumer interest can also serve consumers, consistent with economic efficiency, but the topic is treated in competition law. Consumer protection can be asserted by non-governmental organizations and individuals such as consumer activists. Now we have Nikita to explain why why the laws are essential to follow by every business.
Right. So for business laws that are all businesses should follow are business licenses and workers' compensation. So for business licenses, to legally start a business, you'll likely need a business license. How to get a license. So you simply start by calling your local city government, see if you actually need a license, and just gather information about zoning rules. Zones are urban planning. Zones are urban planning methods in which an area or a zone is divided and assigned to a municipality or other government tiers. And for federal or state licensing, check out the Small Business Administration websites or follow the links that are applicable to your website or business. For workers' compensation, most states require employees to buy an insurance policy that compensates employees if they get hurt or become ill from workplace exposure. To learn more about your responsibility as an owner or as an employee, visit websites such as Department of Labor, any worksafe websites, or any websites that are specific to your city or country, as well as ask your human resources department as they are in charge of training and other aspects. Going to the next slide. We'll be talking about employment laws. So the first employment law we'll be talking about is Fair Labor Standards Act. This act regulates federal minimum wage, overtime rules, child labor bans, and record keeping requirements. You'll want to read through it to make sure you comply with the current regulations. Number 2, we have federal equal employment opportunity laws. This set of laws prohibit discriminations based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It also includes equal pay for men and women and protects people with disabilities. Third law we have is Family and Medical Leave Act. If an employee is dealing with a medical condition or a family member with a medical condition, there are rules an employer must follow. From time off to compensation, you'll want to read this to guide you to understand how this act affects your business. And lastly, we have Occupational Safety and Health Act. This law guarantees employees a safe working environment free from any recognized health hazards. And this also connects with the Medical Leave and Family Act. So next slide. Thank you everyone for making it this far into our module. We really appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedules and learning about business law and ethics. If you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or even through email, and we'll get to you as soon as possible. A reminder to fill out your post-session forms and just answer the questions so we can hold aside a certificate for you. Thank you.